Relax. You are about to have everything. There is a stillness, a quiet pulse beneath all the noise and motion of life. And if you close your eyes for a moment and simply breathe, you will feel it. That gentle whisper beneath thought, that invisible hum beneath worry, that sacred rhythm that never stops speaking to you even when you forget to listen. It is the pulse of creation itself, reminding you that what you seek is not far away, not lost in some distant future, but quietly alive within you now. You have been taught to believe that life is something to chase, that happiness, peace, and success are rewards at the end of effort. But what if the opposite is true? What if the moment you stop chasing, the moment you become still, everything you have ever wanted begins to find its way to you? There is a power in relaxation, a wisdom in stillness that the world has forgotten. The truth is that the universe does not respond to strain, it responds to alignment. It does not require you to fight, it asks you to feel. Most people spend their lives reaching outward, trying to pull from the world what only exists within. They think their worth lies in what they achieve, that love must be earned, that abundance must be proven. But the quiet truth, the one that rises when the noise fades, is that you already are what you seek. Every desire you have ever held is a reflection of what already exists in potential within you. To relax is to allow that potential to unfold. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the weight leave your shoulders. Notice how the body softens when you no longer demand from it, how the breath deepens when you stop trying to control it. This is not weakness, this is alignment. You are not giving up, you are giving in to truth, to flow, to the deeper intelligence that knows the way. The universe is not waiting for your effort, it is waiting for your stillness. Think of your desires not as distant goals, but as seeds already planted in the garden of your consciousness. They do not grow through strain, but through trust. When you rest in the knowing that your wish is already fulfilled, you water those seeds with faith. Every thought of gratitude, every feeling of peace, every moment you choose calm over chaos is sunlight to your creation. You are not broken, you are not behind, you are not late. The delay you perceive is not punishment, it is preparation. The world you experience right now is merely the reflection of your old assumptions. What you call reality is the echo of yesterday's belief. The new belief, the new world, begins the moment you decide to feel differently. So breathe. Feel the quiet assurance that everything you desire is already finding its way to you. You do not need to earn the right to be blessed. You simply need to assume the state of being blessed now. What would it feel like to wake up already free? What would your morning feel like if you knew that nothing could be lost, that everything was working in your favor? That feeling, that warmth, that calm, that peace is not imagination, it is creation. The mind wants to analyze, to plan, to measure progress. But creation is not a calculation, it is a state of consciousness. The world does not move because you push it. It moves because you align with it. The river does not rush to the ocean. It flows there naturally. In the same way, you are being carried toward your fulfillment, not by effort, but by awareness. Let the old conditioning dissolve. The idea that struggle gives value, that pain purifies, that only the deserving receive. The universe does not deal in merit, it deals in resonance. It responds not to what you do, but to what you are. The question is not, how do I get what I want? But can I feel now as though I already have it? When you relax, you make space for the miracle. When you release control, you allow the higher order to unfold. And in that allowing, the impossible becomes inevitable. Every great transformation begins not with effort, but with surrender. So tonight, when the noise of the day fades and your mind begins to quiet, remember this. You are not asking life to notice you. Life already has. You are not waiting for something to begin. It already has. The moment you let go, the moment you rest in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the unseen begins to move. The laws of creation, subtle, silent, exact, begin to reorder your world to match your assumption. And in that stillness, in that simple act of trust, something profound happens. You realize that what you were searching for was never separate from you. You are both the dreamer and the dream, the creator and the created. The outer world bends to your inner state. So breathe again, deeper this time. Feel the quiet power beneath the breath. That is the presence of the infinite within you. It is whispering, relax. You are about to have everything, not because you fought for it, but because you remembered it was always yours. There is a quiet moment often overlooked between intention and manifestation, a pause so subtle that most pass through it unaware. Yet it is there in that stillness where creation begins. When you close your eyes and dwell inward, you are not escaping reality. You are entering the workshop of it. Everything you see, everything you call real, began as a thought clothed in feeling. Every structure, every invention, every act of love or faith first existed as an image in someone's mind, vivid enough to become flesh. The same power that designed galaxies hums quietly within you, waiting for direction, waiting for belief. Most people do not realize this. They spend their days reacting to what is already past, to circumstances that are nothing more than reflections of their former thoughts. They think they are trapped by conditions, not knowing they themselves are the cause. And because they believe in the permanence of what they see, they repeat the same patterns, replaying the same emotions until life becomes a loop of old assumptions. But once you awaken to the truth that your inner world precedes the outer, everything changes. You no longer fear appearances because you understand they are temporary. You no longer chase outcomes because you know you are the origin. This understanding does not come from study or struggle. It comes from awareness. To be aware is to remember that imagination is not fantasy. It is the creative force itself. When you imagine from the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are not pretending. You are selecting a new reality, tuning the frequency of your consciousness to the world where your desire already exists. And consciousness, being the only reality, must then outpicture what you have chosen within. The mistake many make is imagining about what they want instead of imagining from it. To imagine about something is to stand outside of it, to dream as a spectator hoping to be chosen. But to imagine from it is to become one with it, to live in the state where it is already true. It is the difference between longing and knowing. The beggar looks at the feast and dreams of being invited. The master takes his place at the table and gives thanks before the meal is served. So ask yourself, where are you imagining from? When you close your eyes and see the life you desire, do you feel distant from it, or do you feel it breathing through you as your own? Because your feeling is the evidence of your faith. The subconscious does not respond to words or effort. It responds to the emotion you sustain. If your feeling contradicts your desire, it is your feeling that will prevail. You cannot feel poor and manifest abundance. You cannot feel unworthy and call forth love. Life mirrors your dominant inner state. This is why relaxation is so essential. When you are tense, when you are striving, you are affirming lack. You are saying without words, I do not yet have. But when you relax, when you rest in the certainty that it is already done, you align with the truth. You no longer send conflicting signals to the universe. You become still enough to let the invisible arrange itself in your favor. Think of it this way. When you plant a seed, you do not dig it up every morning to check if it is growing. You trust the soil. You water it gently. You give it sunlight. You know that unseen processes are at work beneath the surface. In the same way, once you have imagined clearly and felt deeply, your only task is to trust. Doubt is like digging up the seed. Faith is the patience to let it grow. There will be moments when nothing seems to change, when appearances insist that your desire is far away, but that is the moment when faith is tested and strengthened. The senses will tempt you to look outward for proof, but proof comes only after conviction. The mirror cannot reflect a new face until the face itself changes. So rather than questioning, when will it happen? Ask instead, How can I dwell more deeply in the knowing that it already has? Every time you return to that inner state, that quiet conviction that your wish is fulfilled, you are building a new world. The old one begins to dissolve, not through force, but through neglect. The energy you once gave to worry now feeds faith. The attention you once spent on fear now nurtures creation. Slowly the invisible becomes visible, and what once seemed miraculous becomes natural. Creation is not an act of effort, but of faithfulness. Faithfulness to the unseen truth, loyalty to the feeling of the end. That is the work. Not trying, not hoping, but remembering. Every time you close your eyes and feel the reality of your desire as though it were already yours, you are rewriting the script of your life. The world cannot resist such certainty. It must conform, it must align, because consciousness is the only law. So tonight, as the day dissolves into quiet, let your imagination be your sanctuary. Picture yourself not as one waiting for the miracle, but as one who has already received it. Feel the calm that comes when the waiting ends. That calm is your evidence. That stillness is creation itself. There comes a moment when you begin to realize that nothing in your external world has ever truly held power over you. The things you have feared, chased, or blamed were never the cause, only the consequence. Every event, every encounter, every seeming coincidence was a reflection of the state you were dwelling in. The world is not happening to you, it is happening from you. And once that truth settles in, life ceases to be a battle and becomes a revelation. You start to see that reality is like a mirror, loyal, unflinching, incapable of deception. It shows you only what you are, not what you pretend to be. It reflects your assumptions, your self-concept, your most persistent inner conversations. You can smile before it or frown, but the mirror will always give back the image you present. And so long as you attempt to change the reflection without changing yourself, frustration is inevitable. The outer can only rearrange itself to match the inner. Most people live as though the mirror came first. They think, once I see change, then I'll believe. But life does not work that way. Belief is not the result of evidence, it is the cause of it. To believe only after seeing is to live at the mercy of the world. To believe before seeing is to master it. This is the secret every mystic, every visionary, every great creator has understood. They knew that the invisible precedes the visible, that imagination is the womb of all reality. So when something unwanted appears in your life, do not curse the reflection. Instead ask, what am I assuming within myself that this is showing me? This question turns every challenge into a doorway. Because the moment you identify the assumption that produced it, you are free to choose differently. You stop fighting shadows and begin to change the light. Changing the inner world is not about denial. It is not pretending that pain or lack does not exist. It is about understanding that they are not final. They are the residue of old thoughts, the fading echoes of a consciousness that you have outgrown. Just as the sunset does not mean the sun has died, the darkness in your life does not mean the light has vanished. It only means you are being invited to see from a higher place, to respond not with fear but with awareness. This is where true transformation begins, in the quiet decision to stop reacting and start creating. Reaction is mechanical, it repeats the past. Creation is deliberate, it births the new. When you react, you confirm that the outer world is real and powerful. When you create, you remember that it is your shadow, your echo, your masterpiece. But creation requires something the mind resists: stillness. The mind loves movement, comparison, effort. It thrives on doing. Yet creation does not come from doing. It comes from being. The artist does not force the paint to form beauty. He becomes one with the vision before the brush even touches the canvas. The musician does not fight the notes. He enters the rhythm until the music plays through him. In the same way, manifestation is not a struggle. It is a surrender to what is already true within. To live from this awareness is to walk through the world with quiet authority. You begin to notice how easily things align when you are no longer pushing. People who once seemed distant are drawn to you. Opportunities arrive without planning. The right words find you at the right time. And while others call it luck or coincidence, you recognize it for what it is, reflection. Still, this awareness requires faith. There will be days when the mirror shows you remnants of your old state, when life seems to contradict your new belief. That is when the real practice begins. The temptation will be to doubt, to conclude that nothing is changing. But the wise understand that the outer world is slow to catch up. Like an echo fading through a canyon, it takes time for the sound of your old thoughts to disappear. Patience is not waiting. It is trusting. It is remaining loyal to the unseen, even while the seen lags behind. When you learn to hold that inner conviction, calm, consistent, unshaken, something extraordinary happens. You no longer need proof. You feel the truth of your desire so vividly that it no longer matters whether it has appeared yet. And it is in that moment, when you no longer need the evidence, that the evidence begins to appear. Because the world is not moved by need, it is moved by conviction. Imagine living each day from that place, walking as though your dream were already real, speaking as though you had already received it, feeling as though you had already received it, though there were nothing left to attain. You would find yourself at peace, not because circumstances are perfect, but because you no longer depend on them for peace. That is true freedom, to know that nothing external can add to or subtract from who you are. This is the essence of the law of assumption. To assume is to become. To become is to create. It is not a theory, but a law as exact as gravity. Every assumption, once accepted as true, must express itself. The world has no choice but to mirror it back. And so the question is no longer, will it happen? But, can I remain faithful to the state where it already has? If you can, everything changes. The mirror begins to glow with a new image. The reflection softens, then transforms. And what once seemed impossible becomes natural. Not because you forced it, but because you finally understood that creation is not something you do. It is something you are. There is a moment in every awakening when you stop asking if the universe responds to you and begin to see how it always has. Every outcome, every coincidence, every seeming accident, all of it has been the echo of your own assumptions returning home. Nothing has ever been random. There are no chances, no accidents, only reflections of inner states crystallized into form. Once this truth sinks in, your relationship with life transforms completely. You move from confusion to clarity, from fear to authority, from reaction to deliberate creation. What you once called fate, you now understand as faith. Not the kind that pleads or hopes, but the quiet conviction that the unseen listens to the tone of your being. Every thought carries a frequency, every feeling a signature vibration, and the universe, being pure intelligence, matches it faithfully. This is not philosophy, it is law. The law of consciousness is impersonal, exact, and constant. It does not reward or punish, it simply reflects. If you sow peace within, you will harvest peace. If you sustain fear, it will multiply. The challenge lies in consistency. The mind, conditioned by years of reacting to appearances, is quick to waver. One moment it affirms abundance, the next it fears lack. One moment it feels loved, the next it doubts its worth. These fluctuations are natural at first, but they are the only true obstacle between intention and manifestation. The universe is not delaying you, your divided mind is. To live deliberately is to bring unity back to your inner world, to choose one truth and remain loyal to it regardless of appearances. This is what Neville called faithful assumption, the unwavering decision to inhabit the state of the wish fulfilled, even when every sense denies it. Faith is not emotion, it is discipline. It is the quiet endurance of one who knows that the seed planted will bear fruit, even when the field looks empty. Most people confuse faith with effort. They think belief must be proven through action, that trust means constant doing. But creation does not respond to frantic activity. It responds to inner alignment. Imagine a radio. No amount of twisting the dial matters unless you are tuned to the correct frequency. The station has always been broadcasting. You were simply tuned elsewhere. The same is true of your desires. They already exist in potential, fully formed, waiting for you to match their vibration through assumption. So how do you tune yourself? By directing the imagination with intention. Imagination is the bridge between the seen and the unseen, the faculty through which you command creation. When you imagine vividly and feel sincerely, you impress the subconscious mind, which in turn instructs the outer world to conform. You are not daydreaming, you are programming reality. The key is to imagine from the end, not about it. Close your eyes for a moment and picture the scene that would follow your wish fulfilled. Don't watch it from a distance. Enter it. Feel the atmosphere of completion. What are you doing, saying, wearing, hearing? Who are you now that the desire is realized? Let those sensations become real in your body. Stay there long enough for the mind to accept it as truth. When you open your eyes again, do not return to waiting. Carry that inner certainty with you. You have just performed an act of creation. The subconscious accepts whatever you persist in feeling as real. It does not judge, it does not filter, it does not question your worth. It only knows repetition and intensity. That is why emotional coherence is essential. If you imagine abundance but feel doubt, it is doubt that will manifest. Feeling is the secret, not fleeting excitement, but the steady, lived emotion of fulfillment. When that emotion becomes familiar, the world must reshape itself to sustain it. This is why many struggle with manifestation. They try to create from anxiety. They treat imagination as a task, something to be done quickly to fix the outer world. But you cannot build heaven from panic. Creation responds to relaxation, to confidence, to the calm, knowing that all is well. You are not asking the universe to grant a wish. You are affirming that it already has. Every genuine act of faith begins from the end. Of course, this practice demands patience. There will be moments when old patterns return, when fear whispers that you are fooling yourself, when circumstances seem unmoved. In those moments, do not fight the doubt. Observe it. Doubt is only the echo of the old state fading away. Like ripples in a pond after the stone has already sunk, those outer tremors cannot harm you unless you chase them. The new assumption is already planted. Your only work is to remain still enough for it to take root. This stillness is not passive. It is the highest form of participation. It means choosing trust over control, certainty over questioning. It means allowing life to unfold without interference. When you live this way, people notice something different in you, a calm authority that does not seek approval or assurance. You no longer beg life to change, you declare that it already has, and quietly, effortlessly, the mirror obeys. Every master of this art has spoken of the same principle. The world is yourself pushed out. The faces you meet, the opportunities that appear, the delays and the breakthroughs, all are reflections of the state you occupy. You can test this truth for yourself. Change your inner speech about someone, and soon their behavior toward you changes. Alter your assumption about money, and opportunities begin to arrive from unexpected places. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations that consciousness is the one and only cause. Once you understand this, you no longer feel powerless. You realize you are the author of every chapter that unfolds, and like any great writer, you can revise. You can close your eyes and rewrite the scene until it pleases you, until the emotion feels complete. The world will adjust itself to match the new script. This is not fantasy, it is law. So tonight, as you lie in bed, practice the art of faithful assumption. Choose one desire and imagine it fulfilled. Feel the relief, the gratitude, the quiet joy that comes when the journey ends. Fall asleep in that feeling and let the subconscious take over. It will weave your vision into form while you rest. And when you awaken, walk as though it were already so. Because it is, the universe has never been withholding anything from you. It has only been waiting for you to assume the role of the one who already has it. There is a quiet power that comes when you finally stop arguing with what is and begin aligning with what can be. It's the moment when you no longer look at your circumstances as limitations, but as mirrors, reflections of who you once believed yourself to be. The old patterns, the delays, the disappointments, they were never punishments. They were reminders, evidence of where your attention had been resting. But now awareness has entered the picture, and awareness changes everything. You start to notice that your life moves in rhythm with your inner world. Every mood, every assumption, every small internal shift sends out a signal that the universe cannot ignore. What you feel consistently becomes what you live inevitably. And so, the work is not to control the outer world, but to master your inner atmosphere. The true act of creation is not building, but becoming. We have been conditioned to believe that change requires strain, that transformation demands effort, repetition, and proof. But creation in its purest form is effortless. It is not born from tension, but from surrender. Look at nature. The tree does not force itself to grow. The flower does not wrestle the soil to bloom. Each simply fulfills the pattern encoded within it. You are no different. The life you long for already exists within you, waiting for your belief to give it permission to unfold. The mistake most people make is trying to change their world while remaining the same within. They decorate the mirror without altering the face. They chase new opportunities without ever assuming a new identity. But no matter how much action you take, no change can last if it is not supported by a change in consciousness. You cannot hold the frequency of lack and expect abundance to arrive. You cannot dwell in doubt and expect certainty to blossom. Life responds only to being. This is why assumption is so powerful. It bypasses effort and speaks directly to creation's language, conviction. To assume something is to decide that it is already true, to inhabit the identity of the one who has received. And from that identity, the world reorganizes itself in your favor. You are not commanding matter to move, you are commanding yourself to align. Once that alignment is real within, the outer must follow. Think about how often we confuse motion with progress. We run, we plan, we hustle, we analyze, all in an attempt to make something happen. Yet the universe does not respond to motion, it responds to energy. If your inner state is one of doubt, it doesn't matter how hard you work. You'll only amplify the feeling of struggle. But if your inner state is one of knowing, even the smallest step will be amplified by unseen forces. The difference is not in what you do, but in who you are while doing it. That is why the most effective creators are calm. They are not frantic or desperate. Their energy is measured, centered, unwavering. They may act, but their action is inspired. It feels light, intuitive, natural. They move when moved from within, not because they fear missing out. They trust the timing of the invisible. They understand that every delay is preparation, that every silence is a sign of unfolding. To reach that level of trust, you must first stop treating appearances as truth. The senses, though convincing, are merely reporters of the past. They show you what has already been created, not what is becoming. When you look at your world and see lack, you are seeing an echo, the residue of an old belief. To react to it is to keep it alive. To ignore it is to starve it. The moment you refuse to identify with what you see, the transformation begins. It may feel unnatural at first, this act of believing before seeing. The mind will resist, it will demand evidence, but the evidence will not appear until belief has taken root. That is the divine paradox. Faith is not born from sight. Sight is born from faith. The world cannot reveal to you what you do not yet accept as true. This is why imagination is sacred. It is not childish fantasy. It is the first stage of creation. When you close your eyes and feel the reality of your desire as though it were already yours, you are not escaping reality. You are shaping it. You are communicating with the creative force directly, speaking in the only language it understands, feeling. Every time you feel the truth of your vision, you charge it with life. You breathe consciousness into form. But imagination alone is not enough. It must be accompanied by persistence. Not the frantic kind that strains to force results, but the quiet persistence of one who refuses to forget who they are. You must return to your inner scene daily, not as a wishful visitor, but as the rightful inhabitant. You must learn to live from the end until the end becomes the beginning. Consider how an actor prepares for a role. Before stepping on stage, he studies the part, memorizes the lines, absorbs the character's essence until it feels natural. When the curtain rises, he does not try to act, he becomes. In the same way, you must rehearse the role of your fulfilled self until it feels more real than your current one. Speak like them, move like them, think like them, and soon the world will cast you in the part you have been playing within. This is not self-deception, it is self-definition. Every assumption you accept creates a version of you, and the world responds accordingly. When you assume lack, you become someone who lacks. When you assume abundance, you become someone to whom abundance naturally flows. It is not magic, it is law. The more you practice this awareness, the more effortless life becomes. Circumstances begin to shift without struggle. People treat you differently, opportunities align, and the right paths unfold at the right time. And while others may call it luck, you will know the truth. It is alignment. The universe is simply mirroring the state you have chosen to sustain. To live this way is to become untouchable by fear. You no longer panic when things appear uncertain, because you understand that appearances are the slowest part of creation. You live from cause, not from effect. You trust that the inner shift is already done, and that time is merely catching up. That trust is your greatest power. It keeps you steady when others waver. It allows you to move through life with calm authority, knowing that the unseen is always working for you. And so the invitation is simple. Stop striving to make things happen and start becoming the one for whom they already have. The moment you decide to feel it as done, the invisible machinery of the universe begins to move. Not because you demanded it, but because you aligned with it. Everything you desire already exists, not somewhere far away, but in a parallel vibration, a version of reality waiting for your assumption to bring it into focus. The bridge between here and there is not built through effort, but through faith. Step onto it with conviction. Walk across it with peace. And know that the moment you feel it as real, the world begins its silent rearrangement to make it so. There comes a point when you begin to understand that nothing you desire is truly outside of reach, because nothing is truly outside of you. You stop thinking of creation as a negotiation with the universe and start seeing it as a conversation with yourself. Every outcome, every coincidence, every door that opened or closed was your own consciousness speaking back to you in form. The question is no longer, can I create? But what am I choosing to assume is real right now? This is the turning point between manifesting by chance and manifesting by awareness. Once you see that consciousness is cause, your life stops being a chain of random events and becomes a living mirror of your assumptions. That realization carries both liberation and responsibility. Liberation because you are no longer a victim of circumstance. Responsibility because you can no longer hide behind it. It is easy to say the universe decides, that fate intervenes, that luck determines who flourishes and who does not. But luck is simply alignment disguised as accident. When your inner state and your desire harmonize, what others call luck becomes your natural rhythm. Life starts to feel effortless, not because the world has changed, but because you have. This understanding requires a shift in how you approach the unseen. Most people treat the invisible realm as an uncertain space, something they hope will respond, something they test when desperate. But the unseen is not hesitant or withholding. It is precise, obedient, and immediate. The only delay lies in our inconsistency. One day we believe, the next we doubt. One moment we assume, the next we question. And the universe, being an exact reflection, mirrors back that instability. It cannot deliver certainty to a mind that is divided. To change this, you must cultivate steadiness, not the rigid control of the anxious mind, but the quiet, unshakable calm of one who knows. Faith is not the absence of movement. It is the stillness that makes movement unnecessary. When you truly believe that your desire is fulfilled, there is no need to strive, no need to force. You act, yes, but from inspiration rather than effort. Every step becomes light, purposeful, guided by an intelligence greater than your reasoning mind. People often ask, how do I know if I'm aligned? The answer is simple, by how you feel. When you are in alignment, there is peace, even in uncertainty. You no longer rush because you sense that what's meant for you is inevitable. You no longer chase because you understand that attraction is stronger than pursuit. Your inner world becomes your anchor, and from that anchor, life begins to revolve gracefully around you. The real art lies in holding this state when the senses contradict it. The physical world will always show you the aftermath of old beliefs, the delayed echo of what once was. To react to it is to relive it. To ignore it is to transcend it. The one who can look at lack and still feel abundance has mastered creation. The one who can look at delay and still feel certainty has mastered time. You might wonder how to maintain that conviction when reality feels heavy. The answer is subtle but powerful. Gratitude. Gratitude is the bridge between the unseen and the seen. It is the language of fulfillment, the tone of already having. When you give thanks before the evidence appears, you signal to creation that it has already been accomplished. Gratitude dissolves doubt because it affirms that the gift is already yours. And when the heart speaks that language sincerely, reality must respond. So when the mind begins to question, when it asks, where is it? Why isn't it here yet? Pause and shift the inner conversation. Instead of pleading for proof, affirm, thank you for the perfect unfolding of my desire. Notice the difference in energy. One tone comes from lack, the other from completion. And the universe always echoes the tone you hold longest. This is not passive waiting. It is active participation in a higher order. You are not ignoring life, you are instructing it. Every quiet act of belief, every moment of inner alignment rearranges the unseen architecture of your reality. The phone call you've been waiting for, the opportunity, the healing, all of it begins to move the moment you move inwardly. The invisible does not need your panic, it needs your permission. There will come a day when you look back and realize how precisely every detail aligned, how the delays you once cursed were perfectly timed bridges, how the disappointments redirected you toward deeper fulfillment, and you will understand that creation was never chaotic, it was meticulous. The only chaos was in your temporary blindness to its order. The great secret, the one hidden in plain sight, is that everything you assume becomes inevitable. The assumption does not need effort to survive. It sustains itself through attention. Whatever you feed with focus grows. Whatever you ignore dissolves. And so the question of creation becomes startlingly simple. What am I feeding? Are you nurturing the story of fear or the vision of fulfillment? Are you replaying the memory of failure or rehearsing the feeling of success? Each day you make this choice not with words but with your inner dialogue, the quiet self-talk that runs beneath your awareness. Change that inner speech and your entire life rewrites itself. Speak to yourself as the one who has arrived. Think from the end, not about it. When doubt arises, do not fight it. Outgrow it. Remind yourself that the outer world is slow, but it is faithful. It must conform, but it does so in its own rhythm. And when you master that patience, when you can stand in the silence between assumption and evidence without wavering, you discover something extraordinary. You realize that the waiting was never punishment. It was refinement. Every pause was polishing your conviction. Every quiet season was strengthening your knowing. Eventually, you no longer crave signs. You no longer need constant reassurance. You know, you feel it, you trust it. And in that still knowing, the unseen rushes to meet you, not because you demanded it, but because you finally matched it. So tonight, before you drift into sleep, let this truth settle softly within you. You are not trying to become powerful. You already are. You are not learning how to manifest. You are remembering how to allow. The universe has never stopped listening. It is only waiting for your certainty. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and rest in the feeling that it is done. Because in the unseen, it already is. There comes a time when you stop waiting for the miracle and begin realizing that you are the miracle. That what you once begged life to give you was never withheld. It was simply waiting for you to remember who you are. Creation has never been about convincing the universe. It has always been about convincing yourself. The shift happens the moment you stop asking, "When will it come?" and start declaring, "It is already here." That declaration is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is the silent knowing that existence bends toward conviction, not doubt. The universe is precise, mathematical in its loyalty to your assumptions. Whatever you hold as true, it must mirror back to you. This is not metaphorical, it is law. When you live from the end, when you feel the reality of your desire as already accomplished, you activate forces that cannot fail. But most people hesitate to believe this because they've been taught that power lies outside of them. They've been told to earn, to chase, to prove. They beg for blessings, never realizing that asking is a confession of separation. You do not ask for what you already are, you express it. You do not reach for what is yours, you rest in it. The more you strive, the more you affirm distance. The more you relax, the more reality conforms to your calm certainty. The mind resists this simplicity. It insists that action must precede results, that effort is noble, that control guarantees safety. Yet look at life itself. The tide moves without command. The stars align without strain. The seasons shift without argument. You are made of that same intelligence. Your desires are not interruptions to life's flow. They are extensions of it. When you align with that flow, creation feels as natural as breathing. And still, the question returns, how do I live from the end when the evidence is not yet here? The answer lies in identity. You must become the person who already has what you seek. Not by pretending, not by repeating empty affirmations, but by shifting the tone of your inner world. Every desire you hold belongs to a version of you that already exists. A version whose confidence, gratitude, and peace are the natural result of fulfillment. Your task is to find that version within, to inhabit it so completely that it becomes your default state. This is not make-believe, it is mastery. To believe before seeing is to understand the mechanics of creation. The outer world is the shadow, and the inner world is the light. The shadow cannot change until the light moves. The moment you change your inner stance, your self-concept, the outer world must realign. It cannot resist. The law is absolute. Begin by noticing how subtly the mind pulls you back into the old identity. It will whisper, "You're still waiting, nothing has changed, look around." It will point to the evidence of the senses as if it were proof of failure. But remember, the senses are always late. They show you yesterday's creations, not today's. The moment you stop giving them authority, you reclaim your creative power. Practice this. When the world contradicts your desire, pause and ask yourself, who am I being right now? Are you the version that doubts or the version that knows? If it is the former, shift immediately. Close your eyes and step back into the feeling of fulfillment. The peace, the relief, the quiet joy. Let that state become your refuge. Each time you do this, you are training your subconscious to accept a new reality. Repetition turns imagination into embodiment. The subconscious, once impressed, works without your supervision. It begins to orchestrate everything, coincidences, timing, encounters, all to match the pattern you've set within. You don't have to know how. The how belongs to the unseen. Your only responsibility is the who you are being, what you are assuming, what you are feeling. If you hold the state long enough, reality will have no choice but to catch up. You see, creation is not a straight path, it is a circle. You think you are walking toward your desire, but in truth, you are walking back to it. Every dream that calls you is already complete in another dimension of consciousness. You are not chasing it, you are aligning with it. The moment you match its frequency, the two realities merge, and what was unseen becomes visible. There is a beautiful simplicity to this process. You do not need rituals or complex techniques. You need consistency. You need to fall in love with the feeling of your fulfilled self until it becomes more natural than the self who waits. That is the great secret, repetition of being. You are already doing it, even now. You are repeating the state of waiting or repeating the state of having. One creates delay, the other dissolves it. The world begins to shift quietly, subtly, once you choose the latter. People treat you differently. Circumstances rearrange themselves with almost eerie precision. Opportunities arrive not because you hunted them, but because you became the kind of person who attracts them. This is not superstition. It is alignment made visible. The most powerful creators do not force, they allow. They live with the serene confidence of those who know the outcome is inevitable. They act when inspired, rest when guided, and never chase confirmation from the outer world. They understand that life is self-sustaining, that their only work is to maintain the inner vision. If you could see how intricately the universe is responding to your state, you would never doubt again. Every delay, every silence, every apparent obstacle is simply the world rearranging itself to fit the picture you've painted within. You are not waiting for alignment. Alignment is waiting for you. So tonight, before you sleep, take a breath and step into the end. Not halfway, not as a visitor, completely. See it, feel it, own it. Imagine the relief of knowing that it is already done, the warmth of gratitude filling your chest, the quiet confidence that you no longer need to try. Fall asleep as the fulfilled one, not the seeker. Because when you wake in the morning, something subtle will have shifted. The world may look the same, but it will not feel the same. You will walk through your day as though the unseen were already seen. You will speak differently, move differently, notice beauty where before there was absence. And in that new awareness, life will meet you halfway, bringing into form what you dared to claim within. This is the rhythm of creation, not striving, not waiting, but becoming. Every time you choose to embody the end, you shorten the distance between thought and thing, between desire and reality. And one day, almost without noticing, you will look around and realize that the world you once imagined has quietly become the world you inhabit. You will smile then, not in surprise, but in recognition, because you will finally understand that it was never magic, it was you all along. There is a moment, subtle, almost invisible, when the desire you once chased stops being an idea and begins to breathe within you. You can feel it, it's not a wish anymore. It's a quiet certainty, a pulse that beats in harmony with your own. It's as though something in the universe has clicked into place, though nothing in your outer world has yet changed. That moment is the birth of manifestation, not when it appears in the physical world, but when it takes root in your consciousness. People think the miracle happens when the evidence arrives. It doesn't. The miracle happens the moment you decide completely and without contradiction that it's already yours. That is when creation begins to move. You might not see it yet, but the unseen starts to rearrange itself with precision, bringing to you the people, places, and opportunities that match the new frequency you've chosen to embody. But this requires a kind of inner honesty. You cannot half believe and expect fullness. You cannot stand with one foot in doubt and the other in faith. Creation demands coherence. Mind, heart, and imagination moving as one. When they align, the impossible becomes ordinary. You don't need to push or plead. Life begins to respond effortlessly. The greatest misconception about manifesting is that you must convince something outside yourself to cooperate. But there is no outside. Everything you perceive as external is simply your own consciousness objectified. The world is not a stage where you play a part. It is the reflection of the script you write in silence. The moment you change the inner dialogue, the scene begins to shift. Not because the universe suddenly listens, it always has, but because you have finally spoken in its language. That language is not words, it is vibration, emotion, imagination. You communicate with the universe not through effort, but through state. If you feel lack, you declare lack. If you feel fulfillment, you declare completion. This is why it is not enough to speak affirmations mechanically. The subconscious does not respond to phrases, it responds to conviction. The tone beneath the words is what shapes reality. Ask yourself, what am I feeling most often? Because that feeling, repeated day after day, becomes the law of your life. If your emotion is anxiety, you will draw experiences that justify anxiety. If your emotion is trust, life will mirror it with precision. The universe is perfectly impartial, it does not choose sides. It only amplifies whatever you sustain within. To live consciously means becoming the guardian of that inner state. It means noticing when fear creeps in and deciding not to feed it. It means catching the subtle thoughts that whisper, "It's not working," and replacing them with "It's unfolding perfectly." This is not self-deception, it's self-direction. You are choosing the signal you send out, knowing that the world will echo it faithfully. Still, even the most awakened minds experience moments of doubt. It is part of being human. Doubt doesn't disqualify you, it refines you. It shows you where belief has not yet taken root. When doubt arises, don't fight it, observe it, breathe through it. Let it remind you that faith is a choice, renewed moment by moment. The more often you return to certainty, the faster the old patterns lose power. The real work is not about forcing the outcome, it's about deepening the state. The more vivid your inner world becomes, the more naturally the outer world begins to conform. Imagine walking through your day as though your desire had already manifested. How would you carry yourself? How would you speak, think, and respond to others? Every small choice becomes a declaration. Every thought, a brush stroke on the canvas of your reality. And yet, this way of living doesn't isolate you from the world. It connects you more deeply to it. When you stop chasing and start embodying, you move through life with an ease that others can feel. You no longer need to manipulate or persuade, you attract. You become magnetic, not because of what you do, but because of what you are. That quiet confidence is irresistible to life. Creation flows through you like music. The people you meet, the timing of events, the so-called coincidences, all begin to fall into rhythm. What once seemed random now feels deliberate. You realize that the delays were never delays at all, only synchronization. The universe was arranging things in the perfect sequence, waiting for you to reach the right state to receive them. If you look closely, you'll notice that every manifestation carries a similar pattern: desire, assumption, stillness, and expression. You desire something, not because it's missing, but because a greater version of you is calling. You assume it is already done, allowing that truth to sink into your being. You grow still, letting go of the need to interfere or rush. And finally, it expresses itself through your experience. Each stage flows into the next naturally, without strain. So much suffering comes from interrupting that flow. We plant the seed of desire, then dig it up repeatedly to see if it's growing. We question the process, measure the results, and in doing so, we halt the very magic that was unfolding. Faith, real faith, is the art of letting the seed rest. It is trusting the invisible process with the same certainty you trust the sunrise. You may not see it forming, but it is forming, always. One day, you'll realize that manifestation is not something you do, it's something you allow. That your desires are not tests or rewards, but invitations. Doorways through which you meet new dimensions of yourself. You'll see that every wish fulfilled was simply life reflecting your own expansion, your own willingness to believe more deeply. This is the point of mastery, when you no longer chase outcomes, but shape them quietly from within. When you no longer wait for proof, but walk as proof. When you no longer look for signs, because you have become the sign, the living evidence of faith realized. So tonight, don't ask for your desires, don't question when they will arrive. Instead, close your eyes and feel the story as already complete. Step into that version of yourself who no longer hopes, but knows. Feel the relief, the gratitude, the peace of it being done, and hold that feeling, not as a momentary escape, but as the foundation of your reality. Because when you wake tomorrow, the world will begin to reflect that inner certainty. Subtle at first, a coincidence, a message, a shift in atmosphere, and then suddenly, unmistakably, the invisible becomes visible. Not by chance, not by luck, but by law. The law that has always answered to the quiet voice within you that dares to say, "It is already done."